President, case 23, did you need something?
Just if you wanted me to announce the case.
Thank you. President, case 23 CR 1269, State of Ohio versus Kendrill. Is it pronounce your first name?
Kendrill.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Kendrill Johnson. We are here for an evidentiary hearing on a motion to suppress that was filed on behalf of the defendant. The defendant is here in court with counsel Hector Martinez. State of Ohio is present, represented by Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Alexandra Cutts. All right, before we get started, I just want to make sure we're clear on the record regarding any discussions that were, offers that were made to resolve this on that. If you can set forth on the record, Ms. Cutts, what if any offer was made, if that offer is still available, if it won't be available, whatever the circumstances are.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, on January 18th of 2024, the state did send an offer to defense counsel by both email and regular mail. That offer being to count, there were two options. Either plead to count 2, having weapons while under disability, a felony of the 3rd degree with forfeiture, and count 4, possession of cocaine, a felony of the 5th degree with forfeiture. Or another option would be the lesser included of count 2, attempted having weapons under disability, felony 4 with forfeiture, count 3, improperly handling firearms in motor vehicle, F4, and count 4, possession of cocaine, F5 with forfeiture. Any remaining counts would be dismissed, and we would recommend a pre-sentence report and drug and alcohol evaluation that was provided, as well as discovery has been provided. Defense was informed that if they wish to proceed with the motion to suppress it, that would obviously be fine, but the offer would be revoked at that time. If another offer is made, it would be different than this one.
Mr. Martinez, I will assume, I don't need the nature of your, obviously the specifics of your discussions, but I'll assume you shared that and discussed that with your client?
I did, Your Honor, and we've rejected that offer. Thank you.
So you understand that it's not available then if we go forward today?
Understood.
And you understand that, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I do.
Okay, very well. Then let's get started. I will hear from the state first. Any opening comments you would like to make?
Your Honor, for the opening, we would just rest upon the response to the motion to suppress we filed on April 1st of 2024. Other than that, we would waive an opening.
Mr. Martinez?
We'll waive opening. Thank you.
All right. Well, the state may call its first witness then.
Mame.
Call Patrolman Jonathan Mame.
Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Okay.
That's whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please tell the court your name?
Yes, Patrolman Jonathan Mame,
And where are you currently employed?
City of Willoughby Police Department.
And how long have you been with the Willoughby Police Department?
Going on 2 years.
And what is your position at the Willoughby Police Department?
I'm a patrol officer.
Prior to working at the Willoughby Police Department, did you have any prior law enforcement experience?
Yes, I was a patrol officer with the City of Brook Park for 3 years.
So your total law enforcement experience coming up on 5 years?
Correct, yes.
Do you have any certifications or trainings that would be relevant to the matter that we're here today on?
Yes, I've conducted criminal interdiction training with the Ohio State Highway Patrol. I'm a certified field training officer, and I am OPATA certified to teach traffic stop training.
And are you a certified peace officer in the state of Ohio?
I am, yes.
And you went through an academy to be certified?
I did, yes. I attended the Lorain County Community College Police Academy, graduated in January of 2020.
And in your almost 5 years as a police officer, can you give an estimate of how many traffic stops you've been part of?
Thousands, yes.
And what would you say is the average length of time for a traffic stop when you're writing out a particular citation?
Between 10 and 20 minutes.
Were you working for the Willoughby Police Department on Thursday, November 16th of
I was, yes.
And what shift were you working that day?
I was on patrol shift on day shift, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Were you in uniform or plain clothes?
I was in uniform.
And does your uniform have a badge and patches visible that indicate you work for the Willoughby Police Department?
It does, yes.
Were you driving a marked police car or an unmarked car?
Marked,
And does that also have indications that you work for the Willoughby Police Department, lights?
yes. All the above.
Drawing your attention to about 2 p.m. on that November 16th of 2023, where were you area-wise working in Willoughby, Lake County, Ohio?
Yeah, I was in the northern end of the city of Willoughby, basically everything north of downtown Willoughby up to Lake Erie.
So is there a time you were in the area of Lakeshore Boulevard and Lost Nation Road in Willoughby, Lake County, Ohio?
I was, yes. I was patrolling the area and eventually ended up on Westwood Drive in the city of Willoughby, where I observed a vehicle at a residence.
So is Westwood Drive an area that you keep an eye on, have any special interest in?
Yes, there's a residence on that street that I had been informed prior to that date by both Lake County Narcotics Agency and detectives with our detective bureau with Willoughby Police. But there was a residence on that street that was known for narcotics activity and that they had information that narcotics activity was occurring at that residence.
So on this November 16th, did you drive past that residence?
I did, yes.
And I think you indicated you saw a vehicle there.
I did, yes. When I drove past the residence, I noticed a vehicle in front of the residence in the drive that I had never seen before at that residence. That just rose some suspicion to me, having never seen the vehicle there, kind of knowing the residents at that, the residents who live there and their typical vehicles at that house. I thought that that was just something different and ran the license plate on the vehicle that was in the drive.
And what kind of vehicle was in the drive?
It was a GMC SUV, greenish blue vehicle.
So a darker color?
Yeah,
Was it an Arcadia or something else?
Katie, I believe, yes.
And did you stop to run the plate, or how did you do that?
No, as I continued to drive by slowly, I punched the license plate into my mobile device in the car, the mobile computer. Just typed it into Leads to get a prompt return on who the registered owner was, what kind of vehicle it was, all the information we would normally get when running a plate in Leads.
And what information did you get as to who the registered owner of the vehicle was?
It returned that the registered owner was Kindrell Johnson.
As you are driving past, running the plate, where do you go?
I ended up going closer towards Lost Nation Road, essentially 3 or 4 blocks east of Westwood. Pulled over to the side of the road and began to run more information about Mr. Johnson on my computer.
And what did you learn through your looking into Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, so I initially ran his information in Olin, which is a law enforcement database that taps into different systems and different reports from different agencies across the area. When I ran his name, I initially saw a report from the Solon Police Department stating that Mr. Johnson had been arrested by their agency. During that arrest, it stated that narcotics were recovered and also an AK-47 was recovered from his vehicle during that arrest.
After learning that information, did you look for anything further?
Yeah, the next place I went into was the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas court docket. Wanted to continue to search to see if Mr. Johnson had any other cases, any other arrests relating to narcotics. I did a search of his name within that system and located an additional arrest through the Cleveland Police Department for felonious assault.
So was the case from Solon Police Department a pending indicted case?
It was pending, yes.
Okay, so he was under indictment for what from the Solon?
For drug trafficking, and then he was under indictment from the Cleveland Police Department for felonious assault.
So both had pending indictments?
Correct.
So it's two separate indictments.
Two separate cases,
Right,
yes.
saying that.
Yes.
That's all.
While you are running this information, sitting in that area near Lost Nation, did you have occasion to see the vehicle that had been in the Westwood driveway?
I did, yes. So when I was position parked on, which I can't remember the exact block, but it was either 1 or 2 blocks west of Lost Nation Road facing south on Lakeshore Boulevard. I observed the vehicle pass my location and make a right-hand turn to go south on Lost Nation Road.
And this was the same vehicle that you had run the plate on?
Same vehicle, yes.
So this is what, about 2:10 p.m.?
Correct,
A little bit after.
yes.
And that's still in Lake County, Ohio?
Yes, it was.
What lane did that vehicle get into?
Initially, the vehicle was in the right-hand curb lane going southbound from Lakeshore.
Going to, for purposes of identification, marking State's Exhibit 1, showing to Defense Counsel. Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 1. Do you recognize what that is?
That is a map of North Willoughby.
Is that an aerial map kind of looking above down?
Correct.
You had mentioned Westwood, the area where you had control to see the vehicle initially in the driveway. Can you show the black kind of circle kind of the area where you drove by until you went to Culotta to Lost Nation? And you marked the area where
Where's Lost Nation? You just point to it? Okay, got it. Thank you.
the blue, you can mark where you were when you saw the car go onto Lost Nation. Once you see the vehicle turn onto Lost Nation going south, what, if anything, do you do?
I pull off of either Bellevue or Hayes. I don't recall specifically which street I was seated on, but I pull off and begin to go southbound on Lost Nation as well.
And are you in the right lane or a different lane?
I believe that I was in the right lane going southbound.
So you are, fair to say, behind the vehicle that had been in the driveway?
Correct. I'm behind the vehicle. There are a few vehicles between us. I don't know the exact count, but there were vehicles between my vehicle and Mr. Johnson's vehicle.
So you're not directly behind him,
But I'm following from a distance, correct?
and are you able to see the vehicle?
I am, yes.
At this point, are you aware of how many people are in the vehicle?
Not at that exact moment, but I do learn later as I get closer to the vehicle how many occupants are inside.
Is there anything that you notice about the vehicle as you are following the two cars moving?
Correct. As I approach essentially the driveway to the Parkway Apartments, which is going to be basically just south of 9 Adele Road in the city of Willoughby, I observed the vehicle move from the right hand to the left lane abruptly, not using a turn signal, and nearly cut off another vehicle that was traveling southbound in that left southbound lane. After the traffic violation occurred, I began to try to catch up to the vehicle. I'm anticipating conducting a traffic stop on that vehicle, and I could have seen that there were multiple occupants in the vehicle. Unknown number at that point, but I knew that there was more than one person inside.
So at least 2 people, possibly more.
Correct.
The area that you were talking about, apartment complex area, do you conduct a traffic stop right away?
I do not.
And why is that?
Prior to making the stop, I had looked at our mobile data terminal, which is the computer within our car. Every Willoughby marked police unit is equipped with a GPS unit within that car. It shows us exactly where every car in the city is at that time.
Every police car.
Every police car is at that time. Prior to the stop, I had looked at the screen and noticed that there were no other Willoughby units close to my location. I believe at that time, every other unit was at the station, which is well south of where I was currently at. Based on having reviewed some of Mr. Johnson's criminal history in terms of the pending indictments, having high-powered weapons within his vehicle during one of those arrests.
Objection.
Ruled.
During the arrest, I decided that I would wait to make that traffic stop until I was closer to other units from Willoughby PD for my safety.
And does the fact that there are multiple people also play a little bit into that?
Definitely, yeah. That's with multiple occupants, the history. I just felt that it was going to be safer for me to get closer to any sort of backup if I needed in the situation.
Did there come a point where you did conduct a traffic stop?
I did, yes. So near Hodgson Road, just north of the Willoughby Fire Station, southbound, I conducted a traffic stop on the vehicle. Just like I said, just near Hodgson Road on southbound Lost Nation.
You can show the red marker approximately where the traffic stop did occur.
That intersection?
Hodgson.
Okay.
And Lost Nation?
Where's Route 2? Off the diamond, below?
Continuing south, yes, it's south.
It's below the, it's not on the diamond.
Now, did you specifically in your police car have dash cam or body cam?
Dash cam, no body camera, they're not issued to us.
So Willoughby Police Department doesn't issue body cam?
Correct,
Okay. So you did have dash cam equipped on your vehicle?
correct.
And does that dash cam also have an audio of the mic where your conversations can be picked up?
Yes, I wear a body-worn microphone that syncs to the dash camera.
And what activates the dash camera to go on?
The overhead lights. Once you turn the overhead lights on, it initiates the camera and it initiates the body mic.
And once that goes on, does it start at that moment? Does it go back a bit?
It will go back 60 seconds in terms of the video. The audio doesn't initiate, I believe, until the lights are on. But the video itself goes back, the audio or the visual goes back 60 seconds.
So when you're watching a dash cam, the first 60 seconds isn't going to have audio.
Correct.
But at the point that the audio starts is when
The-
you would activate the light.
Correct.
You mentioned you've seen a traffic violation. What type of violation was that?
A turn signal violation.
Was the turn signal violation on your dash cam? Was that recorded?
It was not, no. The actual violation was not on the dash camera because it happened prior to the 60 seconds, the 60-second look back, essentially. So as I explained, it looks back 60 seconds from when the time the lights went on. The violation occurred prior to that, kind of in that period of when I was making the decision of where I felt safest to conduct the traffic stop. So it did not actually capture the violation itself because it happened prior to the camera activating, essentially.
So even though the dash camera doesn't show that, you saw it as
I saw it, yes.
Once you activated your lights to initiate the traffic stop, what happened then?
Yeah, the vehicle was slow to stop initially. Typically in a traffic stop, and the thousands that I've conducted, having to utilize the actual siren itself is a very low percentage of the time that I have to do so. I ended up having to initiate.
Siren's the audio.
Yes. I had to initiate the audible siren itself because the vehicle was slow to stop, getting into the ballpark of a time frame in which I started to believe that the vehicle wasn't going to stop at all. The vehicle then did eventually pull to the side of the roadway, but again, as it pulled to the side, was still slow to come to a stop.
Let me make sure, clarify. So you started with your lights, which is a visual.
Yes.
And then when the car didn't stop, was taking longer to stop than you would imagine, that's when you hit your siren to get an audible
Correct.
as well.
Correct.
And that's not your norm to use the siren.
It's not the norm. Do we utilize it? Yes, but it is a small percentage of the time that we have to then activate the audible siren itself. A majority of people see the lights, they pull over immediately.
And you had mentioned that the vehicle was slower than usual, what you're used to for stop. Why is that significant to you in your training and experience?
So to me, it indicates a few different things, that the occupants of the vehicle may be potentially hiding contraband, maybe hiding something within that vehicle, or they may be making some sort of contraband or weapon ready at hand to utilize against me in that situation. So it immediately puts me very on guard, raises my suspicion due to just the uncertainty of traffic stops and how dangerous they can be.
And then you also mentioned it also makes you think, as you said, that the car may not stop at all.
Yep, that is also a growing trend.
So is it fair to say about 2:13 p.m. is when the actual traffic stop occurred?
Correct.
You approached the vehicle.
Yes.
How do you do that?
I came around to the passenger side of the vehicle and made contact with the driver.
When you get to the passenger side, at that point, are you able to see how many people are in the vehicle?
Correct. I saw that there was a front seat passenger, driver, front seat passenger, and then there was a male seated in the rear passenger side as well.
You mentioned the driver and front seat passenger. Were they male, female, both?
All males.
What, if anything, did you notice about the driver upon approaching the vehicle?
Yeah, so when I got up to the driver, I noticed that the driver had the keys of the vehicle, which was just the single car key and a fob, I guess, to unlock, out of the ignition and in his right hand, which to me was very unusual.
Why is that very unusual?
It's just not something that you typically see. Most people just put the car in park and sit and have the conversation with the officer when we approach, or advise them the reason for the stop, ask them for their driver's license. The key being out of the ignition in his hand to me was just strange, and again continued to raise my suspicion that there was something more to what was happening.
Did you inform the driver of the turn signal violation
Yep.
and where that had occurred?
Yes.
You had mentioned you could ask for a driver's license. Did you do that in this case?
Correct. Yes.
And what, if anything, did you learn about the driver's license for the driver?
The driver, Mr. Johnson, stated he didn't have his ID on him, and I then asked for his personal information, name, birthday, social security number, which he provided to me.
And did he confirm to you that in fact he was Mr. Johnson registered on that vehicle?
He did, yes.
Do you see Mr. Johnson in the courtroom today?
I do, yes.
Can you just identify him by his location, something he's wearing?
See at the defense table, wear the blue smock.
The record can reflect identification of the defendant.
Record may so reflect.
In addition to asking for a driver's license, did you ask
Yes, I asked where they were coming from. I believe Mr. Johnson said a friend's house.
You indicated you were familiar with the residents at the Westwood address.
Correct.
What do you know about age-range people?
Yeah, one of the primary residents that we were told was involved in narcotics activity was, I believe, a 65 to 70-year-old male at that residence.
After getting the information from the driver, Mr. Johnson, did you ask for information from the two passengers in the vehicle?
I did, yes.
And what, if anything, did you receive from them?
They declined.
In your experience in traffic stops, is that usual, unusual?
That is unusual for occupants to decline to provide identification, yes.
And in your training and experience, what does that trigger in your mind, your thinking, what may be going on?
Objection.
Overruled.
Yeah,
Good answer.
it raises the suspicion that the occupants may have warrants for their arrest.
So based on the information that you've been talking about, the location before, the kind of the county cases, the slow to stop, the key out, not giving names, based on all of that, are you suspecting any concerns with the vehicle?
Yes, I'm suspecting that they may have been involved in some sort of narcotics activity or carrying firearms.
After you get the driver's name, social security number, date of birth, do you go back to your police car?
Yes, I do.
And what do you start doing there?
I start to begin a citation for the turn signal violation.
And what else do you, if anything, do you do?
I contacted our dispatch, advised of the vehicle, that I was with the registered owner of the vehicle, and then requested our dispatch contact neighboring agencies for a police canine to come to my scene.
Was that so that you could have a drug detection dog
Yes,
check the vehicle?
correct.
So when you go back to start the citation, do you do that written or is that on your computer?
It's on the computer. It's digital.
So at that point, you have a name, social security number, date of birth. What are you doing with that information?
I'm plugging that information into my mobile data terminal, which is the computer within the car, verifying the information. And beginning to plug that information into the citation.
Now, when you have an actual ID or driver's license, it's fair to say it has much more information on it than just name, date of birth, and social security number.
Correct, yes.
While you are working on that, do you make any other, are you aware if any officers are coming to where you are, or are you requesting? How does that work?
Yeah, correct, yeah. So Captain Smith, shortly after arrived on scene, he pulled up, came up to the passenger side of my police unit, and I just advised him of the situation, of what I had observed, the occupants of the vehicle, the history of the owner of the vehicle, just letting my partners know, I am suspicious of what's going on. The registered owner is under indictment for crimes of violence and drug trafficking, that we need to be on a heightened alert with these occupants. The other occupants are refusing to identify themselves. Just letting him know, we need to be on heightened alert for our safety, essentially.
But before he arrives, you know he is coming, is that correct?
Yes, when I called out the original traffic stop, Captain Smith, essentially, he copied the call stating, I'm coming. But again, he was not extremely close, so it took him a minute to get there.
Okay. And did you ask for any other officers to come to the scene?
I did. Once I saw that there were 3 occupants in the vehicle, I asked for Sergeant Lampola to respond to the scene as well. For our safety, it's just common practice to have at least an equal number of officers to the number of passengers within a vehicle.
you need to return to the vehicle to get some additional information?
I did, yes. So I went back up to the vehicle, asked for Mr. Johnson's current address, and asked for his phone number, which are both pieces of information that have to go into our citation in case they're to receive any sort of correspondence from the court or from our department in the future. Our clerks are very, very picky about getting correct information, so I wanted to make sure I had all of that.
And did he provide that to you?
He did.
Did you, at that point, did you ask if there was anything in the vehicle
Yes.
you'd be concerned about?
Yep. I asked if there were any firearms in the vehicle. Either Mr. Johnson or one of the occupants stated no. They all kind of said no at the same time, it seemed like. And then Mr. Johnson immediately stated, "I don't consent to searches."
Had you asked for consent to a search?
I did not ask for consent to search. I didn't mention searching. There was no indication that I'd be searching. To me, again, that raised suspicion for somebody to just outwardly burst that statement. That in my experience, most people don't yell out, "I don't consent to searches," when just being asked simple questions on a traffic stop.
And is it common practice for you to ask about firearms or illegal things in the vehicle?
It is, especially since the law changed and with the concealed carry permits and concealed weapons. Within the last couple of years, we now are asking everybody, essentially, if they have a firearm within the vehicle for our safety.
So after you get the address and the phone number, do you go back to your police car?
I do.
Going back to work on the citation?
Yep, continue to work on the citation, plugging the information in that's required for the site.
And at this point, had you asked for proof of insurance?
I did not.
And is that something you also need for the citation?
I definitely need that for the citation. Make sure that if the driver has insurance, that it gets logged. If it does not, then the BMV will do their thing in terms of driving suspensions and whatever that may be.
So when you realized you had not asked about that, what, if anything, did you do?
I went back up to the vehicle, asked for proof of insurance. Mr. Johnson stated that he didn't have it on him. I asked him if it was on his phone. He said no, and that he did not have insurance. I advised him that if he wasn't able to
He
pull
said
up...
he didn't have insurance or information about his insurance?
He didn't have proof of insurance. I explained to him that if he wasn't able to provide that I would have to mark it no, essentially, on the citation, and his license could be suspended.
So you didn't receive any proof of insurance from him?
No.
Fair to say you returned back to your police car to add that into the citation, continue working on the citation?
Correct.
And is that about the time that Captain Smith arrives?
Correct.
Okay, so that's when you tell him all the things you've noticed, all the information you've gathered?
Yep, explaining, just making sure my partner is aware of the situation, that the risks of who we may have on the stop, and some of the history that they have.
The one that, at least who?
The one who I know, yeah, yes, the one who I know, yeah.
Okay. So waiting for the backup officers and giving them the background would also be a usual part of your traffic stop.
Yes, yes.
Does a officer with a drug detection dog arrive on scene?
Correct, yes.
When that person arrives, have you completed the citation at this point?
No.
And do you know about how long it took from your traffic stop until that drug detection dog arrived on scene?
Approximately 13 minutes.
And is that still within kind of a usual
That's
traffic stop?
yes, very, very normal.
And who came with their drug detection dog?
Patrolman Merrifield with the Wickliffe Police Department.
And for the dog to do the exterior sniff of the vehicle, did Patrolman Merrifield want the individuals in the car or out of the car?
Yeah, he advised us that he wanted all of the occupants to be removed from the vehicle for his safety, and so the dog can do whatever it is the dog does.
And at that point, you had not removed the occupants?
No.
Was part of the reason you hadn't removed the occupants because initially you were one person with three of them?
Yeah. I would not remove 3 people by myself.
So were the 3 occupants removed from the vehicle?
Yes, they were.
And in what order were they removed?
The front passenger was removed first. Second, I believe, was the rear passenger. And then the driver was last, from my recollection.
When you took out the front seat passenger, where any place was he put?
He was placed in the rear of my police unit.
And at this point, you just be clear, so you have Patrolman Merrifield there, obviously he has to deal with his dog,
Correct.
and then you have
Okay.
Captain Smith and the Sergeant Anatola.
Yes.
So there are 2 more occupants out. Where does the backseat passenger and Mr. Johnson, the driver, go?
They just went to the side of the roadway near the sidewalk and stood with Captain Smith and Sergeant Lampola.
Was Mr. Johnson at that point handcuffed?
No.
So he's just standing to the side of the vehicle?
Correct.
Is it at that point that Patrolman Merrifield is able to take his drug detection dog to the vehicle?
Yes.
Do you see him take the dog around the vehicle?
Yes.
At some point, does Patrolman Merrifield tell you the outcome of the dog sniff?
Yes. He told me that the dog indicated to the presence of narcotics, essentially that we had probable cause to search.
And Patrolman Merrifield's drug detection dog, does he alert to marijuana?
No.
Okay, so he is trained for other narcotics, but not to alert to marijuana.
Correct.
Do you know his dog's name?
Bane, I believe.
So once the dog alerts, what do you do?
We begin to conduct a search of the vehicle. I went to the driver's side, front driver's side area, began to search that area, and Patrolman Merrifield assisted as well with searching of the vehicle.
And did Patrolman Merrifield indicate some ideas of where alerts occurred?
Yeah, so he advised me that the dog had a strong indication on the front passenger side of the vehicle.
So you're on the driver's side. Where does Patrolman Merrifield go?
He's on the passenger side.
Were there any containers or objects that you wanted to get into that you saw in the vehicle?
Yes, the on the passenger side, front side, the glove box in the standard location of most vehicles was locked.
So it's basically in front of the front seat passenger's seat.
Correct.
And you said that was locked.
Yes.
What did you do when you found it was locked?
I asked Mr. Johnson for the key to get into the glove box, which he declined to provide.
And what was the plan once he declined to give the key?
Sergeant Lampola was going to retrieve a crowbar, and we were going to force the glove box open.
As you are waiting for that to happen, working on that, what, if anything, does Patrolman Merrifield locate in the vehicle?
Yeah, so Patrolman Merrifield locates in the rear passenger side on the back pocket of the passenger seat a digital scale with a white powdery residue on that digital scale. The digital scale is commonly used in the preparation of narcotics.
And the white powdery residue, in your training experience, what did you suspect that to be?
It was going to be likely cocaine.
Likely cocaine or some controlled substance?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So just to be clear, so this is in the back seat, but the back of the front seat passenger's seat, that pocket.
Correct.
Once that digital scale with the powdery residue was located, what, if anything, did you do regarding Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Johnson was placed under arrest for possession of drug paraphernalia.
And at that point, because you had said he was not handcuffed, is he handcuffed? Is he put into a cruiser? What
Yes.
at that
Yep.
point?
He was handcuffed and I believe placed into Sergeant Lampola's vehicle.
Not into yours.
No.
The front seat passenger was in yours.
Correct.
And you don't know his name at that point.
I do not.
So at that point, what do you do now that Mr. Johnson has been placed under arrest for the drug paraphernalia?
Yeah, we were going to conduct a search incident to arrest of Mr. Johnson himself. We did that. I retrieved the car keys out of his pants pocket and used that to open the glove box in lieu of breaking the glove box open.
So you just said keys. Was there more than one key?
Just the singular car key and that fob,
Okay.
or yeah,
Was that
clicker.
singular car key was both for the ignition and the glove box?
Same key.
So you were able to open the glove box?
I was.
What, if anything, did you find when you opened the glove box?
Yeah, when I opened the glove box, I immediately observed a firearm in the glove box. I removed the firearm from the glove box and observed that the firearm was seated on top of 2 additional digital scales with white powdery residue on them. I rendered the firearm safe, meaning unloaded the firearm, found that it was a Glock handgun and was loaded with 1 round in the chamber ready to fire.
So there's 1 round in the chamber, and then is it a magazine that's loaded?
Yes.
Once you locate the firearm, what do you do?
The only person essentially left that was not detained at that point was the rear passenger. I advised Captain Smith to detain the rear passenger while we continued to investigate.
Now, was the rear passenger, was he ever arrested?
No.
He was released on scene.
Yes.
And did eventually the front seat passenger and that rear passenger give their names?
Yes.
And did either of them have any active warrants?
Yes. The front passenger, I believe Delonte Brown, was found to have multiple warrants for his arrest in several counties throughout Ohio.
The citation that you had been working on, were you eventually able to complete that?
It was eventually completed, yes, back at the jail and provided to Mr. Johnson with his charge paperwork.
Marking for purposes of identification, State's Exhibit 2 as well as State's Exhibit 3 showing to defense counsel. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may. You don't need to ask, though. I appreciate it.
Showing this is marked as State's Exhibit 2. Do you know what that's the video?
Yes, this is the dash camera video from my traffic stop.
Is it the full dash cam or is it a redacted portion of it?
Redacted.
And how do you know that that's what this is?
So I viewed it with you.
And then did you put your initials on so you know when you saw it?
Those are mine.
So this goes to approximately when you found the firearm.
Yes.
And that's a true and accurate copy?
Yes, it is.
Showing you State's Exhibit 2. State's Exhibit 3. Do you know what that is?
The traffic citation that was issued to Mr. Johnson.
So this is the one that you were typing out on scene and then finished once they were taken back to the Little League Police Department.
Correct.
This is a fair and accurate copy of that citation.
That's it.
And we were talking about State's Exhibit 1, that map. Is that fair and accurate representation of that location?
What is 3 again? I'm sorry.
3 is the citation.
Yeah, all right, thanks.
I was asked to admit all 3 exhibits and then publish or play part of the dash cam.
No objection.
All right, exhibits 1, 2, and 3 will each be admitted, and we can play Exhibit 2 at this time. Let me know when you're ready here. Let's get up there for you now.
Sorry, I didn't warn you yet. So up on the screen, your screen or the big one,
Sure.
is that the dash cam from this November 16th, 2023 interaction with the defendant, Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
And what is the approximate what is the time that is showing on the dash camera?
2:11 and 57 seconds.
So this would be when, this would be about 60 seconds before you turned on your lights.
Correct.
In this screen, can you see the defendant's vehicle?
Yes.
Which vehicle is it?
It's the one directly in front of me, in the same lane, approximately 30 yards ahead, 40.
So it's the one in the left lane closest to the double yellow line?
Yes.
So when the audio comes in around just after the 1 minute mark on the counter, at that point you are playing, your sirens are heard. Is that noise we're hearing?
Yes.
Okay. So prior to that, you had turned your lights on.
Correct.
Clear time will be 14:13, and your number is 684.
So at the time that the vehicle comes to a complete stop and you're preparing to get out, approximately what time is it?
It is 2:13:21 seconds.
And that's PM, correct?
Yes.
So when did the lights come on? A minute? I mean, the camera went on minute 26 ago, obviously. And it goes back a minute in time from when the lights are turned on?
Correct, yes. So the time from the lights going on to the vehicle stopping was approximately 22 seconds.
Okay.
Side of the vehicle in the video. Who is that?
That is me.
Hello. Reason for the stop is back when you were in front of the apartment complex. You used your turn signal when you were changing lanes. Do you have your driver's license on you? Okay. Do you have a valid driver's license? Oh, okay, I got you. What's your social? Can you roll this window back down for me? Yeah. I just like to be able to see everybody I'm talking to. What's your social, buddy? 4449. What's your first name, sir? Birthday, sir? Where are you headed to? Okay, where were you guys at? Okay. Do you guys have IDs on you?
No. What's your good idea unless I commit a crime?
Okay. Hey, I didn't say you had to. I'm just asking you now. I can ask. Do you want to give me yours? Do you want to give me your social? Okay. All right. I'll be back, guys.
Looking for Milford Litton, Friday Litton.
Yes. Nine will be. I know Zenner's in training. Can you see if we have a dog available somewhere around us?
So is that where you request?
That's me. I'm making it a little louder, but obviously it did too much. Sorry.
Is that when you're asking for the canine and drug detection dog?
Yes.
And what's that noise?
It's running information in the computer, just a prompt that on the return of information.
Going to check on a vehicle parking complaint.
Vehicle is clear. Check the area. Detail. Copy. Yeah, 911 has a dog.
All right, yeah, send him up here, please.
Is that information about the canine?
Yes, dispatch advised that Wycliffe had a dog available, and I stated send him up here.
Junior or the third? Yeah, GOP. Zero 8673. Copy. Hey, Ryan, welcome, sir.
Okay.
Is that you on the radio?
That was dispatch advising that Wycliffe was en route with their dog.
Thanks.
I know it's pretty hard here, but at points you're hearing computer noise and you typing at times.
Yeah, half of the citation is done like touchscreen. Some of it you have to tap the keys, which you'll hear on the keyboard. It just depends on where you're at in the ticket or whatever is being inputted. But yeah, you'll hear some keys. And a lot of it, though, is going to be done on the screen itself, just touchscreen.
Yeah, we kill 139 house check. So, Central taken. Copy, I'm also here.
Copy.
You know something?
Good.
If you're available, you might want to swing this way as well.
Susanna, you're actually 626, 627. Is that asking?
Hey, Spurgeon in downtown.
Yes.
Good area. Sheriff's 44 Central. 44. Clear from here, run back to the jail.
So a lot of the radio recording is not related to your stop. This is just what's going on around you.
Yeah, it could be pretty much any agency in Lake County radio that we're listening to at any time. So I don't know what that was or who it is really.
Just for the record, at 7:48, the screen just went white. So that's what Ms. Cutts was referring to.
Thank you.
Right.
It is resuming.
Lockout, that's one lock.
I copy.
Central to 791, check up.
What was it?
793.
Not to my knowledge. Your Honor, if I may, it might be easier if I put the desk directly into yours.
Yeah, at 8:26, the same thing just happened, so we're going to switch the source and go with the computer with the court.
He's okay.
Copy. Central to 748 checkup.
48.
Copy.
Can I just get your current address and phone number, sir? Yeah. 19 what?
The Metro Road,
House, apartment. What number?
Yes.
City. Zip. Yeah, what's a phone number for you? Huh? Well, while I'm up here, nothing illegal in the car, right? No firearms, nothing like that. Okay. What's that? I didn't say that. I ask everybody on every.
What says 1424?
That is the time. So
No, I'm
it's
talking,
2
all right, sorry, on the,
On the counter, he went up around about 9,
what does it say now?
9:47.
Traffic stop if there's a firearm in the car, so I'm not. Did I ask you to search the car? Okay. I just ask every time because. What's that? Oh, all right. I'll be back in a minute.
Yes.
So at this point, you have the address and phone number, add that into what you were typing.
Yeah, you can hear me plugging it in on the computer.
Go ahead. We're going to be at 6330 Center Street, run out with George Tom Edwards, 6940. She would like her vehicle dumped by mom.
You got mail. It's E444, Henry Robert Queen 4951, HRQ 4951. Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right. Sorry. Last thing. Do you have your proof of insurance?
At about 11:43 on the counter, what are you doing at that point?
Going to ask for his proof of insurance.
And what time is it on the screen for this?
14:23:41 or 2:23:41 p.m.
You don't have any proof of insurance? You know they're gonna suspend your license then, right? You don't have it on your phone or nothing?
It's gonna be out of 9.
7-9.
36.
Copy.
Hey, what's up?
So about 1314, 1315 on the counter. Who is that other voice we hear?
Captain Smith.
Okay, so he has now arrived.
Yes.
And is this where you give him a little synopsis, let him know what's going on?
Correct.
And are you still working on the citation at this point?
Yes.
Stop itself, Mr. Traffic, but they were at that house on Westwood Narcotics has been watching.
Ah, okay.
And he's got the driver has 2 open cases in Cuyahoga County. The last one he had, they charged him with trafficking and an AK-47 on him. So the other 2 won't ID themselves.
Okay.
I mean, they don't have to, but they declined when I asked, so just wait for the dog and go from there. Just writing out his citations.
3 males?
Yeah. One in the back, probably like 18, and the 2 in the front are in their mid-20s. I know they've been they sat on that house for a while, and I mean, the guy who lives there is like a 60-year-old current or former drug addict. They said they were just visiting a friend, so see what the dog says. I have a feeling they're not going to be very cooperative. The driver already told me he doesn't consent to any searches, and without me inquiring, just asked if he had any guns in the car, and he said I don't consent to any searches. So.
See it sort of to the middle of the screen, or with flashing lights.
Yes.
Who is that?
Patrolman Merrifield with police in his canine.
According to the time, drive about 26 p.m.
Right.
You want all 3 out?
Yeah. Okay. You just come stand over here.
All right. All right. Here's what we're gonna do, guys. I'm gonna have you each step out, okay? We'll go one at a time, and then we'll go from there, okay? We're gonna run the dog around the car, okay? So you have to step out of the vehicle, okay? Before we do all that, is there anything in here I need to know about?
What is all around the dog on the car? Giving you suspicion to run the dog on the car.
So listen, we're not gonna argue all this, okay? If you want to do, you can do it. You can do it down the road, but we're not. Okay, step out of
Put them up for a traffic
So
stop.
step out of the car. You're gonna be placed under arrest for obstruction. How's that sound?
I'm asking questions.
Okay. What do I have
Come on, face
to?
on the
I understand. I can explain all that.
I'm asking you
Once
what
you-
is the reason.
Once you're out of the car, we can have a long, lengthy discussion about it. Okay? So I'll just have each person step out one at a time. We'll do this. You can come first. All right? Just come step to the back of the car. Okay? Just watch that. I'm just gonna patch down real quick. Okay? Just come over here. Put your hands on top of your head. Okay? No weapons on you.
Yes,
You're
correct.
not being searched or seized, okay? What's in your pocket here? It feels like a bag. What is it? What is it? Okay, well, I'm going to go in there. Put your hand on top of your head.
Consent to no search and procedure. Can I go in my pocket?
Put your hand on top of your head. Don't look at me. Face away from
I'm
me.
not a part of the Terry circuit. Can I go in my
Listen,
pocket?
it feels like contraband to me.
It's still like contraband, a bag in my pocket?
Yep. So I am going to go into your pocket, okay?
That's illegal.
Is there anything in here that's going to hurt me?
Nothing in my pocket. You shouldn't be going through my pocket during a Terry search.
Listen, just be quiet, okay?
I know that deputy reported.
Yeah, okay. My boss is standing next to me. Come back over here. I'm going to have you sit in my car, okay?
I'm not not getting in no car.
Yes, you are.
I'm not.
You are going into the car. You're being
what?
placed under arrest.
For what?
Obstruction if you don't get in my
What do you
car.
mean obstruction?
Put your hands behind your
You
back.
can't force me in the car and I'm gonna do that.
Put your hands behind your back. I'm doing it for my safety.
You'll take me for what?
Put your hands behind your
Put
back.
me in the back of the car. And I didn't. What crime did I commit?
Stop arguing. Stop
What crime did I
arguing.
commit?
Hop in the car.
What crime? Can you tell me what crime did I commit?
Hop in the car.
Can you tell me what crime did I commit?
Hop in the car. We're not
This is supervisor right here.
Hop in here. I'm sitting here. So I'm going to take this stuff out of your pocket here, okay? Because it is contraband.
How is it contraband?
Okay, listen. Just be quiet.
How is it contraband?
Come to the back. Correct. To the back. It's bad. He's all ripped out.
Hey, what are y'all niggas? Tripping.
Anything on you that's going to poke me, stick me, hurt me, anything like that?
I'm getting searched, but
Just come over here. Just come over here. I'm just patting you down. I didn't say I'm searching. I'm just patting you down, making sure you don't have any weapons.
same thing.
No, not the same. Not according to the Supreme Court, my friend. What's a baggie here in your pocket?
That's a regular bag. It's not a baggie. My pocket.
I am going into your pocket because it feels like contraband. I can do so. Come stand back here. Come on, back here. Stand over here. Over here. Over here. Stand right there and don't move. All right, your turn. Let's step out. Stay away from me. I'm gonna patch it out. Make sure your weapons up. Yes. Okay, come back over here. All right. Sammy, stand over here with your buddy, okay? Yeah, go ahead. Stand back over here with your buddy.
All right, yeah, you're trying to have a reason. No, bro. No, bro. I'm not going.
So there's no weapons in the car?
And I let them know. I already cooperated, so. I did everything else. Right.
Yes.
I mean, hey. Yes. Yeah. So they just got me on the car right now.
Listen, you've been nothing but cooperative. I'm not saying you haven't been.
No, I'm just talking on the phone with my attorney.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm not saying you've done. I didn't say.
I never said you said it.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think. I think I'm being respectful to you and.
You have. I never said you have. They've been very respectful to me. Everything's fine. I should be on my way in a minute. I'll just call and let you know what's going on.
How much marijuana is in the car?
It's not no marijuana.
Nothing. I'm just asking you.
Bro, I'm on probation right now. I can't even smoke, bro. It ain't no marijuana in the car.
Where were you guys at before here?
I was out visiting my friend.
Who's your friend? All right, you're gonna hang out here with him, okay?
So at this point, on the counter 2133, about 2:33 p.m., where it appears you go to the driver's side. What are you doing at that point?
Yeah, Patrolman Merrifield advised me that the dog alerted on the vehicle, essentially saying that we have probable cause to search. I'm headed to the front driver's side of the vehicle to begin my probable cause search.
So what shows from here on out, the search of the car?
Correct.
That's not necessary for this, is it? He's challenging that there's no basis to stop the car, no basis to continue the detention and ask him to get out of the car, and then no basis to search the car. Right? Those are the three areas. I mean, there's nothing from this point forward that is being alleged to have been done in the search, but I understand we're there now.
Right. I mean, I don't think we need to watch it, but I'm not.
Well, sure, I know you can't say it, but what's the reason for watching the rest of it?
I had just done it until the end of the search, but
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. Obviously, you want its full context, but I don't think there's anything from this point forward that is relevant to the issues in this suppression hearing. I mean, you can play it obviously if you wanted to. I'm not trying to limit you at all, but
No, if there's an argument past that, I don't have to play.
No, they're not. They
It's
haven't.
moved into evidence, and if the court feels something becomes
I mean,
relevant.
any argument that you're going to make that provides a basis for searching the car has been, you will argue, has been established at this point. Obviously, they're going to the car.
Right, and he was arrested for the drug paraphernalia. I guess the only argument I would make is that after the additional items were found, it was further supported for an arrest, but he's already.
But there's not any challenging that.
Okay, then I have no problem stopping at 21:50 on the counter.
Obviously, whatever was found is irrelevant for this purpose. I mean, it would be excluded if I grant the motion, but it doesn't matter what was found, where it was found at this point.
I think there was a reference to going into the glove box in their motion, but I don't know how far the argument that went.
I'm not arguing that. It's,
They didn't go in until this point right now, right? That's when they went in.
later, correct.
Okay.
All that we've been talking about today all occurred in Willoughby Lake County, Ohio.
Yes.
No further questions.
Thank you. Let's take a 5-minute break. And then
Yeah,
we'll-
perfect.
Right?
Thank you, Aaron.
All rise.
Mr. Martinez, cross-examination.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Officer. It's Maine,
Maine,
correct?
yes.
All right.
Morning.
We met prior to the hearing. I'm
Yes.
Hector Martinez. If you don't understand a question, please ask me to repeat it, or we'll have the court reporter read it back. Fair?
Fair.
Okay. So we're talking about this date back in November of 2023. You're on routine patrol, and you are near a house on Westwood Drive, correct?
Correct.
And you testified that you had prior knowledge from other officers, Lake County Narcotics, that there was a residence on Westwood Drive that was suspected of narcotics activity, correct?
Yes.
And at that time, you maybe, was this about 40 minutes prior to the actual stop that you observed Mr. Johnson's vehicle in the driveway of that residence?
I don't recall the specific amount of time between, but in that ballpark, yes.
The actual stop was at 2:13 in the afternoon, correct? On November 16th, 2023, right?
Correct.
Okay. And prior to that, you had run my client's information, or the vehicle information on the GMC Acadia, correct?
Yes.
And when you ran that information, it came back to my client being the registered owner, correct?
Yes.
And when you ran that information, you knew my client's name, right?
Mm-hmm.
You knew his birth date.
Yes.
You knew his social, right?
Yes.
You knew if he had any warrants, correct?
Yes.
There were no outstanding warrants for Kendrill Johnson. Is that
No.
accurate? And then you also further discovered that there was some pending. There was a pending arrest and an indictment for a case out of Solon, right?
Yes.
And there's also an arrest and a pending indictment for a case out of Cleveland, correct?
Yes.
And then taking that information, you further went to the, searched on the docket of Cuyahoga County, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you're just searching the online docket, the public docket that anyone can view, correct?
Yes.
And from your review of the online docket, you discovered that there were 2 cases pending in Cuyahoga County. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Now, you had nothing to do with the Solon case, correct?
No.
Personally, right?
No.
And you didn't call anyone from Solon to inquire as to any facts and circumstances surrounding the Solon case, did you?
No.
You had no involvement in the Cleveland case, correct?
No.
You didn't contact anyone from Cleveland to learn of the facts and circumstances surrounding the Cleveland case, correct?
No.
You didn't call any of the county prosecutors about these cases, did you?
No.
Cuyahoga County prosecutors?
No.
So all you knew is that there was 2 indictments filed against my client in Cuyahoga County, correct?
Yes.
And one of the indictments was for a felonious assault offense, correct?
Yes.
Now, you also, again, you found out a lot of information about Kendrill Johnson at that time. You also discovered that he did have a valid driver's license at that time, correct?
Yes.
When you look up his license, it also has an address on file, correct?
Yes.
Home address, right?
It has one, yeah,
Okay.
listed.
So you had, at that time when you were running this information, again, you were 3 or 4 blocks east of that location on Westwood Drive when you ran the information, correct?
Yes.
All right. And so when you were parked there running this information, you knew my client's name, possible address, birth date, social, valid license, no warrants. You had all that information, correct?
Yes.
Now, did you personally observe Mr. Johnson pull into the driveway of that residence on
No.
Westwood?
No.
Did you personally observe him pull out of the driveway?
No.
So you didn't observe any criminal activity at the address on Westwood Drive, did you?
No.
You didn't observe any drug transactions or anything that looked like a drug transaction, did you?
No.
At that point in time, you didn't know who may have been in that vehicle besides, well, you didn't even know if Mr. Johnson was in the vehicle at that time, correct?
Correct.
Did you see any activity at that address on Westwood Drive when you slowly drove by it that afternoon?
No.
Nothing out of the ordinary, correct?
No.
Now, Westwood Drive runs off of Lakeshore Drive, correct, as indicated on the map?
Yes.
And so it is a drive that runs from Lakeshore Drive north, basically, all the way up to Lake Erie, correct?
Yes.
And when was the first time you observed the GMC Acadia after it left the Westwood Drive address? Where exactly was it again?
Lakeshore at Lost Nation.
Okay. So you observed, where were you parked at that? Were you parked stationary?
Yes.
Okay. So you observed it traveling eastbound on Lakeshore Boulevard, correct?
Yes.
And there is a signal light at Lakeshore and Lost Nation Road, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall if the vehicle stopped at that signal light or what the signal light was?
I do not recall.
Okay. Ultimately, Mr. Johnson made a right-hand turn to go southbound on Lost Nation Road, correct?
Yes.
And you observed him make that turn?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And you didn't observe any traffic violations as he executed that turn, correct?
No.
And it's your testimony from your recollection that Mr. Johnson was traveling in the curb lane or the far right lane, correct?
Initially, yes.
Initially. And that Mr. Johnson executed a lane change to the second lane without using a signal, correct?
Yes.
Thereafter is when you began to pursue Mr. Johnson in anticipation of making a traffic stop, correct?
After the traffic violation, yes. I mean, I was planning to make...
After the what?
After the traffic violation, I was planning to make a traffic stop at some point, yes.
Play the video again. We have State's Exhibit
2.
2.
Where do we start it up at? Just
Yeah, I started at the beginning.
okay, very well.
Um,
Just for the record. So.
Yeah, so I'm just pausing to hear it. I'm using the time at the top, 14:12:00. That's 2:12 in the afternoon, correct, officer?
Yes, sir.
And what we see here is your vehicle traveling directly behind Mr. Johnson's vehicle, who is in the second lane of traffic, correct?
Yes.
And what's the speed
When we say
limit?
second lane of traffic, we're talking
The center.
not the curb lane,
Not
it's
the curb
the
lane,
middle.
the second lane, correct.
Along the double
Inside.
yellow. Okay.
The center lane.
Right.
And what is the speed limit on Lost Nation Road?
35 miles an hour.
And you didn't observe at any point in time Mr. Johnson exceeding the speed limit, did you?
Not to my knowledge.
I'm pausing the video here at 14:12:56. I see there's a notation on the video which says mic, brake, lights, and siren, correct?
Yes, sir.
So now the lights beacon on the video is lit up
Correct.
or highlighted, correct?
Yes, sir.
So that would correspond to the time that you activated your overhead lights, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Johnson is still in the left lane of traffic, correct?
Yes, sir.
Heading southbound on Lost Nation.
Yes, sir.
I have a quick question. So you're saying the lights just went on?
The lights just turned on, yes.
So why don't we have audio yet? Or are we going to have?
It should any second.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Okay. Now we're pausing it at 14:13:00. We just heard the siren, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's 4 seconds after the lights went on, you activated the siren, correct?
Yeah, I hit initially just kind of like essentially using it as like a horn, just saying, "Hey, I'm here. My lights are on," and then I cut it, and then it comes back on again once the vehicle does not immediately pull to the right-hand side.
Okay. Resume playing at 14:13:00.
Clear penalty 1413, and your number is 684.
Now we're pausing it at 14:13:18. Mr. Johnson has moved from the left or center lane into the right lane, or the curb lane, correct?
Yes, sir.
He used the signal, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he has stopped his vehicle here close to the curb without hitting the curb to the far right side of the right side of the roadway, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this is exactly where you want him to pull over. You want him to pull over on the right side of the roadway, correct?
Yes.
I'm sure you've had persons just stop in the middle of the roadway on prior traffic offenses, correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
So between 14:12:56, when you activated the lights, until 14:13:18, when he pulled over and stopped his vehicle, it's approximately, we're looking at 22 seconds, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he had to move over from the center lane over to the curb lane and then stop his vehicle, correct?
Yes, sir.
You never charged him with failure to comply, did you?
No.
He didn't make any abrupt movements of his vehicle when moving over to the right side of the roadway, did he?
No.
He controlled his vehicle in a normal manner, moving from the center lane to the curb lane. Would you agree?
Yes.
And this is, again, let's talk about the weather. Clear, very sunny day, mid-November 2023, correct?
Correct.
No adverse weather conditions, right?
No.
Hello.
Okay, I'm pausing the video at 14:13:37. What we're watching here is that you have exited your cruiser and you have approached on the passenger side of Mr. Kindrill's GMC Acadia, correct?
Yes.
All right. So during your direct testimony, you had talked about calling for backup units, correct?
Yes, I did not do that here, but yes.
Right. We're just talking. You talked about calling for backup, right?
At some point
And
I
that you
did.
had looked for other Willoughby PD cruisers that were in your general area, correct?
Correct.
And that when you initially started following Mr. Johnson, you noticed that there were no cruisers in your general vicinity, correct?
Yes.
And you also talked about, on questioning from Ms. Cutts, that once you know how many occupants are in the vehicle, that you would want to have the same number of officers there for your safety and protection, correct?
Ideally.
Ideally, if you can, right?
Correct. Not always possible.
And as you were following Mr. Johnson, you did identify that there were other occupants in the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
You knew there was at least a passenger, possibly someone in the rear seat.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you had a good idea that there was at least 2, maybe 3 occupants as you were following him southbound on Lost Nation Road, right?
Yes, sir.
You knew that he had pending indictments in Cuyahoga County at this time. That's going through your mind, right?
Yes.
Okay. And with all that information, you walked out of your cruiser and walked directly up to the car, right?
Yes.
You didn't wait for any backup, did you?
No.
Now, thereafter, you asked Mr. Johnson if he had his driver's license, right?
Yes.
Well, first of all, you had the opportunity to view him, right?
Yes.
Look at him,
Yeah.
okay? And when you pull up his information, when you were parked 3 or 4 blocks away from the house on Westwood Drive, there was a picture of him, I'm presuming, correct?
Yes.
All right. So when you walked up to the vehicle and started talking to Mr. Johnson, did it appear that this was the same person that you had looked up when you ran his record?
It appeared so, yes.
And then he actually identified himself, gave you his name, right?
Yes.
He said he did not have his driver's license on him.
Correct.
You had asked him for his social, correct?
Yes.
You already had that information when you asked him for the social, correct?
I had the information for Mr. Johnson when I ran his information prior with the plate. I want to confirm that it is indeed Mr. Johnson because people have brothers, cousins, people who look a hell of a lot like each other. I want to make sure that I have the right person.
Right. And so when he told you his name, told you his social, at least there was a beginning of a confirmation you had the right person, correct?
When I returned to the vehicle and matched the information he gave me to the information on the screen, to seeing his face, to the photo, at that point I said, yes, this is Kendrill Johnson.
Okay. And then shortly thereafter, you went back to your cruiser and you requested the canine unit, correct?
Yes.
And you asked for, is there a canine unit for the city of Willoughby?
Yes.
Okay. And actually, Officer Merrifield, he's with Wickliffe PD. Correct?
Yes.
And obviously, the jurisdictions work in tandem.
Yes.
Move the video ahead here. I've moved the video ahead to 14:20:48. So during this time that you were in your cruiser, you're working on the citation, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's about 5 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes, correct?
I believe so.
And at that point in time, you had all the information about Mr. Johnson, and now we just heard your car door shut. You're about to exit the vehicle and reapproach.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Play the video again, starting at 14:20:48.
Can I just get your current address and phone number, sir? Yeah. 19 what?
19540.
House, apartment. What number? City. That's it? Yeah, what's the phone number for you? Huh? But while I'm up here, nothing illegal in the car, right? No firearms, nothing like that. Oh. What's that? I didn't say that. I ask everybody on every traffic stop if there's a firearm in the car, so I'm not. Did I ask you to search the car? Okay. I just ask every time because. What's that? Oh, all right. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, we're pausing at 14:21:58. You have reapproached the vehicle. You asked Mr. Johnson for his address and his phone number, and he provided that information to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
You also asked him if there were, the occupants, if there were any firearms in the vehicle, and I think in direct testimony you indicated that there was a general consensus or answer from multiple individuals that no, there was no firearms, correct?
Correct, sir.
Not quite sure who said that.
Correct.
So at this point in time, you had all the information you needed to process the citation, and at this point in time, you didn't ask him for his insurance, did you?
No, I did not.
Nothing precluded you at this point in time from asking him whether or not he had insurance on the vehicle, did it?
I frankly just forgot.
Okay. And fast forward here. Resume play at 14:23:21.
All right, sorry, last thing. Do you have your proof of insurance? You don't have any proof of insurance? You know they're gonna suspend your license then, right? You don't have it on your phone or nothing?
Pausing at 14:24:18, and what we've watched there is you went back to the vehicle. You asked Mr. Johnson if he had insurance, and he responded that he did not. Correct?
Correct.
And then you advised him, as a public service, that the BMV is probably going to suspend his license, right?
Yes, sir.
If he can't show insurance.
Sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so at this point in time, it's 14:24:18. Now you have all the information you need to process the citation, correct?
Yes.
And this is on a computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes, sorry.
All right. You don't have to handwrite any of these citations anymore.
Correct.
Were you ever around when you had to handwrite citations?
I was. We still do here and there.
All right. So now you have everything you need. And when you put the financial responsibility, yes or no on the citation, that's just a box you check, correct?
Yeah, it's a drop down. We select yes, no, or unknown.
And that takes you, 2 seconds, right?
Sure.
So at this point in time, you have everything you need to process the citation. It would only take you a few seconds to put in no on financial responsibility shown, correct?
Yes.
Now, let's also talk about, you've gone to the car on 3 separate occasions here, right?
Yes, sir.
Every time at the passenger window, correct? Yep. I believe at the beginning, you told the rear passenger to please roll the window down, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so you've had the opportunity on 3 separate occasions to observe the rear passenger, the front passenger, who was Delonte Brown, correct?
Yes, sir.
and Mr. Kinderell Johnson, who was the driver, right?
Yes, sir.
And in your observations, you did not observe any evidence of narcotics activity in the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
You didn't observe any narcotics in plain view as you were looking in the video, or in the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
You had no reason to believe that Mr. Johnson was operating the vehicle under the influence of narcotics, correct?
Yeah, no.
You had no, you couldn't detect any unusual odors. You didn't detect any odor of alcohol at that time, did you?
No.
You didn't detect any odor of marijuana, correct?
No.
And you're trained and in your experience, you know what marijuana smells like, right?
Yes, I do.
You didn't see any firearms or any other contraband when you were looking in the vehicle at that point in time, correct?
No.
And I think on direct examination, one more thing. On the last time you went up there, Mr. Johnson did indicate he wasn't consenting to any searches, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And sometimes you ask motorists for consent to search the vehicle, right? You've done that before.
Yeah, of course.
And it's well within Mr. Johnson's constitutional rights, or anyone, to refuse to consent to a search of their vehicle, correct?
Yes, but to blurt it out is abnormal.
Pardon?
To blurt it out when not asked is abnormal in my thousands of traffic stops conducted.
But other motorists have indicated to you that they don't consent to a search of their vehicle. It has happened.
It has.
Go back to the video here. Now we pause it here at 14:24:18. Now at this point in time, Captain Smith has not arrived at the scene, correct?
I don't believe he has yet.
Data weight's gonna be out of 9.
Copy.
Hey,
What's up?
stop itself, Mr. Traffic, but they
Okay, pause it at 14:25:12. Now we hear you having a conversation, and did you hear the voice? That's Captain Smith that you're talking to?
Yes, sir.
All right. So at some point between 14:18 or 14:24:18, when you got back in your cruiser, and 14:25:12, a little around 50 seconds. At some point during that time, Captain Smith arrives. He's driving a large truck,
Yes.
SUV, I think.
Pickup truck.
Large pickup truck. He pulls in behind you. We don't see him, so he must have came from north on Lost Nation Road.
No, he went by.
Oh, he did. He did.
Yeah.
He didn't have his lights activated.
No.
Okay. So we saw him go by. He pulled in. He did a U-turn, pulled in behind you, and then he approached on your driver's side,
Passenger side.
on the passenger side, and you're talking to him.
Yes.
Again, at this point in time, you have all the information you need to process that citation for the turn signal. Correct?
Yes.
Replay at 14:25:12.
they were at that house on Westwood Narcotics has been watching,
Ah, okay.
and he's got the driver has 2 open cases in Cuyahoga County. The last one he had, they charged him with trafficking and an AK-47 on him. So the other 2 won't ID themselves.
Okay.
I mean, they don't have to, but they declined when I asked, so just wait for the dog and go from there.
Okay, pausing at 14:25:40. You had some conversation with Captain Smith. Talked about the passengers not giving their identifying information, correct?
Correct, sir.
Told him They don't have to, that's fine, right?
Yeah.
You told Captain Smith that Mr. Johnson had a couple indictments in Cuyahoga County, correct?
Yes, sir.
You brought him up to speed as to what you knew at that point in time, right?
Yes, sir.
You didn't talk to him about the turn signal violation, did you?
I initially stated that the stop was for traffic, indicating that it was for a traffic violation, just a short version of, of the stop, not having to give them every specific violation that it may have occurred.
And then you told Captain Smith, we are waiting for the dog and we'll go from there. Those are your words, right?
That is what I said.
Back to the video, fast forward it. Have it here at 14:30:52. Replay or resume the video.
All right, your turn. Let's step out. Space away from me. I'm gonna patch it out real quick. I'm not sure what's up. Okay, come back over here. All right. Just have you stand over here with your buddy, okay? Yeah, go ahead. Stand back over here with your buddy.
I'm just trying to have a reason. No, bro. I'm not going.
So there's no weapons in the car?
Okay, and stopped it at 14:31:30. What we've watched there is you asking Mr. Johnson, the last person you asked to exit the vehicle, correct?
Yes, sir.
He got out immediately when you asked him to, correct?
Yes, sir.
You did a frisk for your safety for weapons or contraband, right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Johnson followed your directives and allowed you to perform that frisk, correct?
Yes, he did.
There were no weapons or contraband found on Mr. Johnson's person, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you never found any drugs on Mr. Johnson ever, correct?
Not on his person.
Right. No weapons on his person, correct?
Nothing on his person.
And you walked him up to the sidewalk, and then we see Patrolman Merrifield and his dog approaching the vehicle to commence the search, the canine sniff at 14:31:30. That's accurate, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so between the time that you had all the information, which was referencing back 14:24:18, and now we're at 14:31:30, a little over 7 minutes have passed, right?
Between when and when?
Between the time, officer, you were in your cruiser with the insurance information, or lack of insurance.
After the second visit to the car.
The third visit, actually.
Well, third visit, you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And then now we're at 14:31:30. This is when the canine search is commencing.
Yes, sir.
Canine sniff.
Sniff, yes. Yeah.
And Patrolman Merrifield had requested you to have the occupants exit the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
So initially you asked Mr. Brown, the front passenger, to get out of the vehicle, correct?
Yep. One at a time.
He gave you a little bit of trouble, right?
Yes.
He was hesitating and questioning why he had to exit, correct?
Yes.
Eventually he got out of the vehicle.
Yes.
You placed him in your cruiser, correct?
Yes.
Then you went to the rear passenger, asked him to exit. He exited pretty much right away, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then finally, as you said to Mr. Johnson, okay, your turn. He's the final one to exit the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
During this time, you did not do anything during the time that you're asking them to exit the vehicle to process this citation, did you?
No. It would not be possible.
Well, you had Captain Smith there, right?
Captain Smith was there, yes.
One second, Your Honor. Sure. No further questions. Thank you.
Redirect examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. When you were looking up these on Olin, the information and learning about Solon Police Department, the narrative of that report was actually available for you to look at, is that correct?
A portion, I believe,
Portion.
yes. Not the full narrative, but a few sentence blurb essentially summarizing the incident or arrest.
And that would have been summarized by Solon Police Department and officer, somebody involved.
Yes.
And looking at the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas website, knowing about the two pending indictments, felonious assault and drug trafficking, did that give you a thought of the position that Mr. Johnson would be in regarding if there was a possession of a firearm?
I believe that Mr. Johnson may be dangerous or armed at that time, yes.
Once you see that he's under indictment for felonious assault and drug trafficking, would that individual be allowed to possess a firearm?
Oh, no. Yeah, I knew at that point that he was disqualified from carrying a firearm and would be under disability, yes.
Is it fair to say that generally when you do a traffic stop, you get some sort of driver's license or ID, something you can pull in your hand?
Yes.
Does that tend to make things go faster if you have that ID?
It can, yes, yes.
Does not having one create more of a need to gather information?
It can slow the process down, yes.
And when information comes up on your computer in your car, that's based on BMV information, things of that nature?
Yes.
Last given address.
Yes.
Are they always accurate in the systems that come up?
No. No.
So I think you said on direct, you try very hard to get current address and phone numbers for future contacts with
Future contacts, the court, our clerks, they want the most accurate and up-to-date information at all times, and when we don't have it, we hear about it from them.
At the time that you are looking at the registration, when you ran the plate, when you were looking at Olin, and when you were looking at Cuyahoga County clerk courts, you hadn't seen a traffic violation, correct?
Not at that point, no.
So you weren't starting any citations.
No.
You were just getting additional information based on your concerns with the residents and what was going on.
Yeah, just gathering information, doing some investigating. That's what I'm paid to do.
Did you run a full background check?
No, I didn't pull a computerized criminal history. I didn't go any further than what I've already explained.
When you see the same vehicle that you saw in the driveway turn onto Lost Nation Road, prior to that you had seen a traffic violation to start any sort of paperwork.
Correct.
When you saw, who we now know as the defendant driving the vehicle, but the vehicle, like you said, made an abrupt lane change. I think you indicated there was another car nearby when that occurred.
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw that the vehicle basically made an abrupt lane change with no signal in front of another vehicle, like directly in front of it, almost as if it was trying to get out of my line of sight. In my training and experience, that is something that is common, that somebody who may be carrying illegal narcotics, weapons, may do, is to try to avoid being in the same lane as the officer, or have the officer have a clear visual of their vehicle.
And just to clarify, when you made the stop, in your experience, this was a slower stop than the average?
Correct.
You initially approached the vehicle. Why do you go to the passenger side?
To get out of traffic so I don't get hit by a car coming down Lost Nation.
So you go to the car initially, and then you go back 2 times to get additional information.
Correct.
At the time you go back to the cars, you still don't have any other officer on scene, correct?
Correct.
Would you get 3 individuals out of the vehicle on your own?
Never.
Were you concerned when you would walk up to the vehicle again for your safety?
I'm always concerned. I mean, that's a given, I think, in any traffic stop. Knowing what I knew about the driver or the driver's criminal history, especially the type of weaponry that he's been indicted for carrying, I'm on an extremely high alert.
When you're on extreme alert, does that mean you stop doing your job?
Nope. Continue to do so. Just backup's coming, and I'm going to handle my business the way I'm trained.
When you are doing the citation on the computer, does it kind of start from the top and work its way down?
Yes and no. Yes. So you start your way down, and then you have to click through multiple screens for different portions of the citation. So first page may be personal information. Second page is going to include the violations, whatever they may be, where you input those. The next page is going to be is going to be the weather conditions, the roadway, all sorts of information the BMV wants to know and insurance companies want to know for their data. And then the last page is going to be a brief. You're going to put a brief affidavit of fact, essentially, of why you stopped the vehicle, essentially saying what the operator did.
And then there's also the financial, if there's proof of insurance.
Yes, that's a selection as well on the citation. Phone number, address. There's a lot of information that has to go on a citation because the BMV wants it.
And you have a lot to input. Most of it goes on the citation, but some of it is just kind of saved into the system.
It all, for the most part, I believe, goes on the citation. I don't know specifically what the person who's receiving the citation, I don't know specifically what they see or don't see compared to what is we input into the computer. I don't know 100% what that would be. But yeah, there's some information I believe that we input on there that just gets saved to the server and goes to the BMV when it gets sent or to the court, and then may not be physically like what you see on the ticket itself, but I'm not sure what that is.
Phone number, you have to input that, but that doesn't.
Correct. I don't believe when you print out the citation, it shows your phone number on there, but we have it then in our system and it goes to the court as well.
So there's a lot of different boxes and things you have to go to put all the information in.
A lot of paperwork.
And when you were initially looking at Mr. Johnson's information, you can't just, you have to look at it again and put it into the citation. You can't just.
Yeah, I have to add it into the citation when I start the citation. It doesn't, like, just running the person's information is not going to start a citation because you run hundreds of people. that you don't even stop or you don't pull over. I mean, it doesn't start a citation just because you ran someone's information.
I know you indicated, and obviously you would have testified if you smelled marijuana or if you saw any contraband in plain view. When you don't smell marijuana or don't see anything in plain view, does that mean it's not in the vehicle?
No, it does not mean that.
Are there, in your training experience, common places that narcotics and or firearms are stored or hidden from plain view?
Sure, yeah. Glove box, center console, trunk. I mean, anywhere and everywhere that something can be hidden, someone will try to do so.
And on this occasion, you did not ask for consent to search the vehicle?
No.
When Captain Smith arrived, and you were giving him kind of that brief overview, did you also inform him, which we heard on the video, that you told him you were writing out a citation?
Yes.
If you had finished writing out the citation and the drug detection dog was nowhere in sight, would you have completed the traffic stop?
Objection.
Overruled. You may answer that.
No.
When Captain Smith got there, at that time, so there were 2 law enforcement, but still 3 people in the vehicle. Is that correct?
Yes.
The approximate 13 minutes it took for the traffic stop until Patrolman Merrifield got there, that falls in an average or normal time frame for you on a traffic stop writing out a citation?
Yes, very average.
So you didn't delay the writing of the citation to ensure that Patrolman Merrifield got there?
I did not.
You didn't delay the stop. Had there been a need to, did you feel you had information to do so?
Yes.
And what information is that?
The location in which the vehicle was at prior to the stop being known as a place for narcotics activity. The registered owner of the vehicle, who was the driver, Mr. Johnson's criminal history, pending indictments for drug trafficking, the slowness of the vehicle to stop, the keys being out of the ignition in his hand, the occupants failing to identify themselves, Mr. Johnson blurting out that he doesn't consent to searches, the traffic violation in itself. Is an indicator that we are trained on, that may be an indication that that person does not want to be in the view of law enforcement. All of those pieces just continued to add up and add up and add up, that yes, I would have continued to wait for the canine if I had completed the citation already.
But in the regular course of you doing a regular stop, you had not yet been able to complete the citation?
Correct.
And for the majority of that time, you didn't have any backup with you either?
A majority, yes, I was alone.
Cross-examination.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. As far as completing the citation, again, the third time you went to the vehicle, the only information that you needed, because you said one last thing, is whether or not he had insurance, correct?
Correct.
Once Mr. Johnson confirmed he didn't have insurance, you had all the information you needed to complete the citation, correct?
I had all the information. That didn't mean that I didn't have more information to input into the citation. That wasn't the last thing, check the box and I'm done. That was just information that I needed to continue to write the citation.
Okay,
It didn't mean I was done yet with the other pieces.
Hold on. Go ahead.
All right. You You told us it would take a few seconds for you to check that box, correct?
Yes.
You had never met Kendrill Johnson prior to this date, correct?
Never.
You had no prior interactions with Mr. Kendrill Johnson, right?
Never.
Not involved in any of those other cases, correct?
Nothing.
Didn't know any of the facts and circumstances other than what you may have read on a brief narrative, correct?
That and I read the indictments.
Okay, you read the indictments.
Yes.
Now, you testified here that there was an abrupt lane change that that Mr. Johnson did not use his signal when he made that abrupt lane change, correct?
Correct.
And here you're following him in the centermost lane for approximately 60 seconds thereafter, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Johnson never changed lanes of traffic as you were following him southbound on Lost Nation Road.
Correct.
After the video was activated.
Correct. Yes.
He's driving the speed limit, right?
I believe so.
No incidents with any other vehicles on the video, right?
Correct.
Never left his lane of travel, correct?
Not after the initial
After the
traffic
video,
violation.
right?
Correct.
Now, you actually ordered the passengers of Mr. Johnson out of the vehicle, and that was at the direction of Officer Merrifield, correct? You asked him for what he wanted you to do, right?
Yes.
And then he indicated he wanted all three of them out of the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
And that's when you began to order the occupants out of the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Cutts talked about that house on Westwood Road or Westwood Drive. You personally did not observe Mr. Johnson at that residence, did you?
I never saw Mr. Johnson physically until I pulled the vehicle over.
Right. You didn't see anything that happened. You just saw the vehicle parked at the residence.
Yes, sir.
In the driveway, correct?
Yes, sir.
You didn't see any narcotics activity or anything that appeared to be narcotics activity. You didn't see anything, right?
Correct.
No further questions.
All right, officer, you may return to the table there. Thank you. Do they have any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the state would rest. We've already admitted the exhibits 1, 2, and 3.
All right. Vince may call its first witness.
We'll rest, Your Honor. No witnesses. Thank you.
Then let me hear from the state of Ohio. Any closing comments you'd like to make?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is a situation where the stop, there was both reasonable articulable suspicion and probable cause for the stop. Looking at the traffic violation in and of itself was enough for the vehicle to be stopped. In addition, the officer did have other things on his mind as well, but he did see the traffic violation. He didn't come in and say there were multiple violations. He came in and indicated which one he saw and explained the turn signal violation to him was another aspect that went to his concerns from seeing the vehicle at Westwood. It's one of the types of abrupt movements that he has been trained on, he has learned about for vehicles that may have contraband in them, something to pay attention to. Because there were not other officers in the area, and he was concerned with how many individuals were in the vehicle, as well as knowing that the registered owner of the vehicle was under indictment for drug trafficking and felonious assault, and knowing that an AK-47 was involved in the drug trafficking case, he wanted to make sure that he would have appropriate people available or hopefully in close vicinity. When he did make the stop, the defendant was slow to stop the vehicle.
The defendant what?
Was slow to stop the vehicle. Took what felt to patrolman May much longer than usual, to the point that he was starting to be concerned the vehicle wasn't going to stop at all and may take off. When the car did stop, you can see on the body cam, the dash cam on State's Exhibit 2, there is a little bit of time for the officer to stop his vehicle, get out, go to the other vehicle. When the officer gets there, he notices that the key is out of the ignition and in the defendant's right hand, which would be the hand closest to the glove box, which could mean an aspect of using the key in the glove box in that time frame. More aspects for the officer to look at and to be concerned about. The officer went about writing the citation as soon as he approached the vehicle, got the defendant, the driver's name, social security number, and date of birth. He got that information. He attempted to ask information about the other occupants. He did not receive them. Also a concern to him, he now has no ability to get information on their level of safety concern he should have for them. So at that point, he's going to, I think any reasonable person is going to have to assume something negative just to be cautious. When he goes back to his vehicle, he instantly, you can hear on the dash cam typing as well as the noises from the computer as information is being pulled up. He does ask for a canine, if there's anybody in the area, with the suspicions that he has, as well as he's conducting a traffic stop, and any traffic stop, while it is being conducted, can have a canine come for absolutely any reason. It doesn't have to be any reason if it does not delay the stop. So he's having the canine come. He's working on the citation. He is also aware that Captain Smith is coming. He also asked for his Sergeant Lampella to come. He now knows there are 3 people in the car. He wants to make sure everybody can be handled and that it is as safe a situation as can be. The length of the stop, from the actual stop until the canine arrives, is approximately 13 minutes. There is various case law that talks about the stop, length of stop. Typically around 15 minutes is held to be a normal time frame. State v. Harper, a 4th District Court case, was a 14 minutes and the officer was waiting on requested information. Multiple cases talk about Ohio courts feeling that 15 minutes is reasonable, as well as allowing even up to 30 minutes depending on circumstances. So the time frame from the stop into the dog, it was within the typical time. Officer was still trying to get the citation completed. Though he had done some checks previously, it doesn't mean that everything was readily available, and he still has to go and confirm information with the driver. As he stated, some people do look similar. You have to get the information. He has to compare that information to what is coming up in his system, and then he also has to input it. So there is the Olin and the Cuyahoga County may have given him information and concern and to deal with, but it doesn't fill in a citation, and he doesn't start a citation before a traffic violation is seen. So at that point, he indicates that none of that had occurred. There is case law that indicates that a traffic stop is allowed to include time for a computer check on a driver's license, registration, and vehicle plates, and to issue a ticket. So it is not just you have the information, you also have to use that information to fill out the form, whether it's handwritten or in this case through a computer. 11th District State versus Henry agrees with that, as well as it includes time to confirm proof of insurance. It's also 11th District case, Nahard from 2022. In this case, the drug detection dog did arrive before the citation was done, before any unreasonable delay. As the officer indicated, he was not attempting to delay. He didn't need to. He felt he had enough either way. However, this traffic stop was not delayed. And it's not considered a search if it's within the lawful traffic stop. Many 11th District courts indicate that. There's even an 11th District case, I'll spell it MATTEUCCI, that talks about still writing a citation when the dog arrives. So all of this occurred within the time of the traffic stop without any delay at all occurring. If the court is inclined to think that there was a delay, though obviously the state does not agree with that, the stop can be delayed if there's reasonable articulable suspicion that the person stopped is or is about to be engaged in criminal activity. Circumstances are supposed to be viewed through the eyes of a reasonable and cautious police officer on the scene, guided by his experience and training. 11th District Court supports that as well. Totality of the circumstances are to be viewed, not to be evaluated in isolation. The U.S. Supreme Court in Arvizu, A-R-V-I-Z-U, indicates that officers can draw on their own experience and specialized training, as well as the Ohio Supreme Court in Bacilli supports the totality of the circumstances and not looking at individual. So when you go through all of the different pieces of information and circumstances that were coming to the officer's information, what he was gaining, what he was learning, he started with the location on Westwood, the concern from both the detectives at Willoughby Police Department as well as Lake County Narcotics Agency. He had been watching that house, keeping an eye on it. This was a new car, was a piece of information that meant something to him. When he found out that the registered owner of the vehicle was under 2 indictments, one for felonious assault and one for drug trafficking, as well as knowing the drug trafficking involved a traffic stop that involved an AK-47, all bits of information that are important to him, knowing that he would be under disability if there was a firearm, as well as just knowing the connection and a higher alert or concern of safety. Once the traffic violation occurs and there's the slow stop, more information, more concern from the officer. Having the keys in the driver's hand, out of the ignition, very unusual, very concerning. Passengers not identifying themselves. Again, he has limited knowledge on what he is dealing with if he can't run them and get more information, and it's also unusual. The reactions when asked if there are firearms in the vehicle, of instantly saying, no, we're not consenting, also raises another red flag. The type of traffic violation based on Patrolman Mame's specific training. He is both an instructor for traffic stops as well as he has been involved in trainings for interdiction and different aspects. So he is aware of red flags, of things that untrained individuals may not notice. A lot of the cases talk about the experience of the officer and specialized training, and that the common non-law enforcement educated individual may not notice these things or may not put them together. But when taken all together, if the court deems the stop was prolonged, there was sufficient reasonable articulable suspicion to do so beyond the traffic violation in and of itself. And then once a trained drug dog alerts to the odor of drugs, as occurred in this case, that's probable cause to search the vehicle, including all containers in the glove box and anything within the vehicle. And that also is supported by 11th District Court cases, State versus Henry and State versus Stone. Though this was not brought up in the hearing itself, there was mention in defense's motion about no warrant. There would obviously be no warrant requirement when it's an automobile exception. The car is readily mobile, and probable cause exists to believe it contains contraband following the alert by the trained dog. At the time any contraband was found in the vehicle, the defendant, there was probable cause to arrest the defendant. So in this case, there's probable cause for the stop. There was even reasonable articulable suspicion for the stop. The officer worked to get the citation done. He did not complete it by the time the drug dog came up as well. He was also waiting for backup. That is also a part of a traffic stop that would be reasonable. You would not expect to have one officer, even if he had completed the citation, to go up and deal with removing individuals from a vehicle. In this case, working on the citation, waiting for backup, and the dog came before all of that was completed. So this was an appropriate, non-prolonged traffic stop. However, there was a basis to prolong the stop if it had been needed to do so. Based on all of that, we would ask that this court deny defense's motion to suppress evidence.
Thank you. Martinez?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to keep this simple, we're arguing that there was not reasonable and articulable suspicion for the stop. Obviously, the officer has testified here that there was a signal violation that occurred prior to the video being activated. We have a minute of footage of Mr. Johnson operating his vehicle in a really perfect manner. There's no traffic violations. He's not weaving in and out of traffic. He's not making any abrupt moves. Then the state wants to contend that Mr. Johnson was slow to pull over. I think that's been refuted just by the video. The lights went on, the siren goes on a few seconds later. He has to move from the center lane over to the right lane, uses a signal, moves over. It took about 16 to 18 seconds for him to do all that, pulled in over in a safe manner. There's nothing unusual about the stop at all. It's daylight. The officer wants to point out the fact that he was concerned. There's multiple occupants, concerned about the house in Westwood. Officer Mame did not observe anything at the house in Westwood, didn't even observe my client there, or go in the house, come out of the house. He doesn't know anything that happened there. He did not observe any criminal activity involving my client that would form reasonable and articulable suspicion that criminal activity was afoot. Thereafter, he immediately, despite his testimony that he wanted to wait for backup, he immediately gets out of his car and walks right to the passenger side. He already had Mr. Johnson's information. He had a lot of his information prior to that time. He asked Mr. Johnson for his license. He didn't have it. Mr. Johnson provided him with his social. He goes back, immediately requests the backup from the dog, and purportedly starts to fill out the citation. He goes back on two other occasions. He testifies here today that he forgot to ask for the insurance. But crucially, at the time he asked for the insurance, Captain Smith was not even there. Mr. Johnson provided him with the fact that he didn't have insurance. That's the last piece of information he needs to process the citation and send Mr. Johnson on his way. The fact that the state's using the indictments in Cuyahoga County as reasonable suspicion of criminal activity, that's just not true, and it's not in accordance with any case law. In fact, if Officer Mame had been involved prior with Mr. Johnson on a prior criminal act, that would not serve to convert a regular traffic stop into reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. There's no nexus there. These are just allegations. That's just a red herring from the state of Ohio, that he has two indictments pending that cannot serve as a basis of reasonable suspicion of criminal activity on behalf of Mr. Johnson. Then we have the officer telling Captain Smith, and I want to make sure I get this right, we are waiting for the dog and we will go from there. Obviously, this is all just a ruse. He's not going to complete the citation. His whole point was that he wanted the dog there, and they're waiting for the dog. He's waiting for the dog. He's not expeditiously filling out this citation to process the citation and send Mr. Johnson on his way. Now, I understand the dog during a lawful traffic stop does not trigger Fourth Amendment protection. However, Rodriguez, which I don't think we cited in our brief, but we should have, the Supreme Court case that says from 2015 a traffic stop may not be extended in order to conduct a dog sniff, absent reasonable suspicion. So that's really the crux of the case, that the stop was extended. And then I think you have the additional issue that Officer Merrifield asked Officer Mame, hey, I need these three occupants out of the car. That's extending the duration of the traffic stop. You had the passenger get out, the rear passenger, Mr. Johnson gets out, then the dog sniff occurs. So we have another 6 or 7 minutes where the stop is extended because Officer Merrifield wants all the occupants out of the car, despite the fact, as we all know, the dog just walks around the exterior of the car. It doesn't matter if there's occupants in the car. There's many situations where the dog just walks around the car while you're conducting the traffic stop. Seen it a million times with canine officers. I'm going to walk the dog around the car. Okay, we understand that's not a search, but extending the duration of a traffic stop absent reasonable suspicion is impermissible. It's a violation of Mr. Johnson's constitutional rights. We would ask the court to consider all the facts and evidence here and grant the motion to suppress. Thank you, Your Honor.
Reply.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, as was testified to, and the court will be able to see upon reviewing State's Exhibit 2, the slow to pull over, I believe, was determined to be about 22 seconds, which for some people may seem like a very short amount of time, but for a police officer who's been doing this for years and has done thousands of stops, they have more of an understanding of the time frame that would be considered usual or unusual. So this was a factor that did affect the officer in this case. Regardless of the information that Trauma Mame had pulled up prior to the stop, he still needed to confirm that the driver and occupant of the vehicle was Mr. Johnson. He was very honest. At Westwood Road, he saw the vehicle and ran the vehicle. He didn't see the person driving it. It is possible that that is not the driver. So he didn't stop the car based on what happened in Westwood, his knowledge of that, until he saw a traffic citation, knowing that whoever...
It's not possible. It's possible that that's not the driver. Then how can you rely on that as reasonable suspicion to...
Well, he didn't completely rely on that for the traffic stop, but once the traffic stop occurs and he confirms it's him, now he knows that that does all go to this individual. So his concern was, if the driver of that car, occupant of the car, is a registered driver, he has this information about the drug trafficking, the AK-47, felonious assault. He saw a traffic violation which gave him probable cause to stop the vehicle, and at that time, he's able to confirm, in fact, that the driver is Mr. Johnson, the registered owner. So he is able to confirm his concerns. Because at that time, he had not been able to get in front of the vehicle or to see who the driver was. So he has to confirm who the driver is. He can't start a citation before it happens. He can't start any of that until he confirms. And being under indictment, all of those bits and pieces are one factor. Again, you look at the totality of the circumstances, that in and of itself may not carry the day, but when you hear each step, each bit of information that is coming to the officer's knowledge based on his training and experience, it does make reasonable articulable suspicion. It is still the state's contention that the stop was not extended. Everything was completed within a reasonable time, with the officer attempting to complete everything. He did not need to delay his ability to complete the citation, since in his view, and we agree, he had reasonable articulable suspicion to delay it if the dog was not there by the time he completed the citation. So he was not attempting to delay anything. He was attempting to get the information and put it in. Some people are faster, some people are slower at the computers. It's an in-car computer, so it's not set up as easily with all the drop downs and all the information that has to be put in. So there's a lot of information. He's not trying to delay. He didn't feel he needed to, but it didn't cause a delay. Everything was completed. The dog arrived within that regular period of time. However, if it was considered extended, we do feel that it is sufficient, that there was reasonable.
And you're just repeating your original closing.
Right. So, and I would say, based on the extended time, getting the individuals out of the vehicle also had to do with some of the delay from those individuals as well. So, and not having full backup beforehand. So based on all that, we do feel that the motion to suppress evidence should be denied. Thank you.
I'm going to take a brief recess and then I'll return.
All right.
We are back on the record at this time. This court has considered the motion that was filed by the defendant, the response that was submitted by the state of Ohio, considered all the evidence that was presented during the hearing, testimony, direct, cross, redirect, recross. And I've considered the arguments for both sides. And considering all the foregoing, the court hereby makes the following findings. In this case, there are 3 issues that were raised by the defendant in his motion to suppress. The first, basically, is that there was no basis to stop the vehicle or effectuate the traffic stop. The court believes, based on the evidence, it does not agree with this based on the evidence. The evidence established, the credible evidence established that the defendant did commit a traffic violation, and there's nothing to refute that. I find the testimony of the officer credible in that regard, that the defendant did fail to signal when he was changing lanes. That is enough to justify a traffic stop. The fact that he did not immediately pull him over after that doesn't refute the fact that it happened. And I believe, again, officer's testimony to be credible in that regard. I don't find that the Willoughby Police Department, as set forth in the motion, used this violation as any type of pretext to stop the vehicle. The defendant claimed that the evidence will reflect that he didn't commit a violation. I don't find that. The evidence, the credible evidence, reflects that the defendant did commit the traffic violation, which does justify the stop. Now, the second part of the motion to suppress is that the officer had no basis to continue the detention of the defendant and to request the defendant to exit the vehicle, that the detention of the defendant was prolonged beyond the time necessary to write and issue a citation, and that there was no basis to prolong that detention. Considering the evidence in this regard, the court finds there's no merit to that argument, and that the court finds that this traffic stop wasn't prolonged. It wasn't delayed. The evidence shows that the officer, the entire time, was clearly working on the citation. The total amount of time was 13 minutes, which is not excessively long. It's not long at all, regardless of being excessively long. There's no evidence he was taking his time in preparing the citation. He went back that third time to get information. That was just a minute 45 after he got the second time he went out. If he was delaying, he could have sat there for a much longer amount of time and then gone out and got that. The court finds his explanation of that he just simply forgot to ask that when he went out the second time very credible. Again, if he was trying to delay or extend this, he could have easily done it, just sat there longer. But he was clearly working the whole time on this ticket, and the whole thing only took 13 minutes. The court finds that the stop was not prolonged at all in order to wait for the canine to get there to conduct this search. And even if the officer testified that he was waiting for the dog to get there, or that he would have waited if he had been done, the evidence doesn't establish that that's what he did. The canine officer with the dog was there prior to the citation being completed. And again, the officer did not delay in working on the citation and completing the citation in order to create more time for the officer to get there. So the court finds there's no merit to that. Now, in regards to the argument that there would have been reasonable suspicion, even if there was, the court finds that any issues regarding the reasonable suspicion that would justify the stop or the delay in the detention are irrelevant, since the court found that the delay was not prolonged, or the stop was not prolonged in order to and wait for the dog to get there, and the amount of time the officer took to issue the citation was extremely reasonable. It was not long, excessively long, wasn't even long at all, like I said. So it's no reason or no need to delve into any issues regarding the reasonable suspicion. I will state, however, that I don't find that the defendant took too long to pull over. The whole time was 22 seconds or 18 seconds. Regardless of what it was, he literally started pulling over within 6 seconds of the siren going off. He was in the center lane, pulled over within 10 seconds of the lights hitting, 6 seconds when the siren went. He had to move over to a lane. When we say 20, it was 22 seconds. That's from the first moment the lights went on until he was, that stopped. But he was then pulled over. I don't know how I could have done it any quicker, to be honest with you. So I don't find that that would have been any grounds. But in regards to any other issues, there's really no need to delve into that because, again, the stop was not prolonged. In regards to the third issue that was raised, that there was no basis for the warrantless search, the court disagrees with that. In this case, the canine came to the scene, alerted on the car, indicating that there were narcotics in the car. Canine evidence established doesn't alert on marijuana, would have alerted on anything, any other type of narcotics. That alert on the vehicle provides the officer the grounds to be able to search the entire vehicle. So based on the foregoing, the court finds overrules the defendant's motion to suppress evidence. So we don't have a trial date, correct?
Correct, Your
So we
Honor.
need to establish a trial date here. I'm not going to delay this much longer. This case has been around for a while. I don't know what everybody's schedule is like. Why don't you come in and see Amy when we leave here and we'll get a date.
Okay.
Anything else for the record? I'll do the entry. Anything else for the record?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Martinez?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.